And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we're going to take a look at building a personal income tax calculator. So let me be clear here at the very beginning. This is not to replace doing your taxes. It's not to replace paying somebody to do your taxes. That's probably a good idea, is to hire a professional to do your taxes and submit them for you. But what this is attempting to do is to build a calculator that gives a pretty good estimate of what you're going to owe in your taxes, and allow you to make changes to record life changes in income or marital status or retirement savings or children or things like that, and to see what would happen to your taxes as a result. And so really what this is, it's a planning calculator that allows you to make plans, financial plans for your life, and taking taxes into account, which is a big part of our financial lives. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to A2, and you're going to type in, this is a personal income tax calculator, and I just made that a little bigger, font size 18, personal income tax calculator. And then we're going to record some inputs over here. These are going to be our inputs that we're going to put into the calculator. So these are going to be important information, important tax information about your life. So your family income, that goes in A4, your marital status, and then what we're going to do for marital status is whether you think in the future you're going to be married or not married. So that's either going to be a yes, 1 for no, or 2 for yes, is going to get recorded. Standard deviation, that's statistics. Standard deductions, we'll talk about what standard deduction is later. Retirement savings, child tax credit, and number of children. So those inputs go in boxes A, or cells A4 through A9. And then we need to just format these cells over here a little bit so that they match up to the information that's coming in. So family income. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the control button as I choose the different cells, so I can choose several cells at once. So family income, I have the control button held in, standard deduction, retirement savings, and the child tax credit. Those are all going to be formatted the same way. So those cells, I'm going to right click and go down to Format Cells. And under Format Cells, I'm going to click on Currency. And the symbol that we're going to use here is the dollar. Okay, and then we're going to go with 2 decimal places. So then we hit OK, and that formats all of those cells. We'll see that a little bit later. And then these 2 cells, married and number of children, those 2 cells, we're going to format those 2. So right click Format, and we're going to format those 2 cells to just be numbers. We can go to 2 decimal places, it's fine. And so we click OK. So those are all ready to go, and we'll look at those later on. If you just want to type numbers in just to check that it's working correctly, so this should be $1, and this should not be $1. Okay, this should be a currency. This should have currency. This should have currency. This should not. Okay, so let's just get rid of all that. And then over here are going to be your outputs. So these over here are your inputs. These over here are going to be your outputs. And your output, you're going to have taxable income. That's going to go in D4. Initial taxes owed, tax credit, and then we're going to skip a line here, and then we're going to record our final information, which is going to be your final taxes that you owe and your average tax rate. And again, we'll talk about the details of all of that later on. And then over here, we're going to format these cells again. These cells are all going to be formatted. I already have them formatted, but let's just look at it. We're going to right click Format Cells, and those are all going to be currency with dollars and 2 decimal places. So then we hit OK. And then the average tax rate, this is going to be formatted. Right click Format, and this one's going to be formatted as a percentage and 2 decimal places. Hit OK. All right, one last thing that I want to do is just color code this a little bit so that it's well organized. And easy to see. So over here for the inputs, family income down through number of children, these inputs, we're going to hit Format Cells again. So right click Format Cells, and we're going to change the fill, and I'm going to go kind of with this blue color right here and hit OK. So my inputs are all going to be in blue over here, and then I'm going to come over here to my outputs, and these outputs I'm going to format cells, and these outputs I'm going to make these to be this green color right here. Let's go with this lighter one. And so we hit OK, and there's my outputs. Now you can see some things right here, some numbers and stuff over here. I will on another video show you what goes in there. So we formatted these cells, but we did not write any of the formulas that are going to go in here. We'll do that on another video. All right, so this should get you with the basics set up, and on a future video we'll start to build some of the formulas for the personal income tax calculator. All right, this has been Mr. Hagan, another podcast. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on the next podcast.